Bill Bender, our man from the Sporting News, is with us now because there's a lot to dive into. Bill, good to see you as always, my man. And I think the first thing I want to ask you this first, because this was the one thing that I've been thinking about here in November with college football. There were so many people that tried to tell me that the regular season in college football is not going to mean as much anymore, going from 4 teams to 12 teams, that it's not going to be as exciting in November. There's going to be Bill, they couldn't be more wrong because there are so many more games that years ago we would have never been highlighting or looking forward to or saying mean a lot than we do now, because with 3 weeks to go, Bill, this thing is all over the place with this committee and the 12 teams that are going to get in, specifically in the SEC.
Right, and the Power Four is like 4 separate NFLs, basically. When you look at the tiebreaker scenarios and you sort all that out, at least the NFL, it's just 2, AFC, NFC, you figure it out. Now, when you dig into the SEC tiebreaker scenarios, you come up with a couple conclusions. If Texas beats Texas A&M, takes care of business against Kentucky this weekend, which I think they will, the Longhorns will have 1 spot. If you have this multi-team tiebreaker, it could work its way down to a tiebreaker, which would be the combined winning percentage of their conference opponents. And right now, of those 2 lost teams, the one that has one that's 500 or better is that who? Alabama, of course. So for all this, posturing and trying to figure out all these doomsday scenarios, we're probably going to end up with Texas and Alabama if those 2 teams take care of their business the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I was saying to you in the break before, that LSU doomsday scenario that was out there last week was pretty wild, because on paper, Bill, it kind of looked plausible when you first looked at it and you went, all right, it's the favored team. But as we've kind of gone to learn this year, especially even in the SEC, the whole favored team to win definitely is not how this year is going, especially in that league. What did you think of where the committee put the SEC teams last week, and how much do you think they'll switch it up this week? Because I think they purposely left Georgia as the last team out because they knew they beat Tennessee this week. They're going to rifle them right back up a little bit higher in the rankings. What did you think of where they kind of have those teams in the pecking order right now?
I think they honor head-to-head all the time. That's something to keep in mind as we get in now. I say this, and I'm going to sound like a hypocrite in about 5 seconds. But
Alabama, Tennessee.
There it is. You stole it from me. I was going to get there, so I'll get there first. I'll say they're going to honor Alabama beating Georgia before they honor Tennessee beating Alabama. And I think they'll move Georgia in tomorrow night, and I think they'll move Tennessee out, which is going to cause Tennessee fans to lash out. And I think they're going to find, if they can't lash out within their own conference, they're going to find the next closest thing. And the next 2 closest things are going to be Indiana, if the Hoosiers lose by a bunch of points in Columbus this weekend, and Notre Dame, who is Notre Dame's playing really well, by the way, but they lost to Northern Illinois, and their 2 most impressive victories might end up being Navy and Army if they take care of the Army game this weekend. So I think that's where Tennessee fans are going to try to go, because the way the playoff picture is set up, you're probably going to end up with 4 Big Ten teams and 4 SEC teams. They're going to need Indiana to lose by a lot for the committee to consider knocking them out with 1 loss in Big Ten play.
Yeah, I was kind of going to go there next, and I'm going to circle back to Notre Dame because I do want to bring them back up as well. Indiana, Ohio State is clearly the marquee game this week. Indiana has rode this 10-0 mark. Have they played anybody great? No, they haven't. They finally got a big test from Michigan last time out before they went on their bye. I think you said it perfectly. If they could stay within the spread, 20? What is the number where Indiana has to prove to that committee that at 11-1, provided they beat Purdue in the last game, that they are more deserving than any of those other SEC teams who are going to have 2 or 3 losses, or a second, which I don't think is possible anyway, a second Big 12 or ACC team?
Well, let me throw a score out to you. I went and watched, or you remember this game a couple weeks ago. If Ohio State beat Indiana the same way they beat Iowa about a month ago, it was 35-7. It was close at halftime, and then Ohio State pulled away. I still think Indiana would be fine, just because Iowa competed for a half. And I kind of see that's what's going to happen on Saturday. I could see Indiana hanging around with Curtis Rourke. Will Howard and Rourke are the two top most efficient passers in the Big Ten. They're not fancy, but they get the job done. Curtis Rourke's had a really fantastic season. And I could actually see this being a little bit like an Ohio State-Michigan game, where they go back and forth. The defenses control the tempo, and if they stop the run, one of those quarterbacks will make a handful of pass plays, and that will be that. But what they can't have happen is what happened to Michigan State a few years ago. Remember, they came into the shoe, Mel Tucker team, and I think it was 49-0 at halftime. If that happens, those things we talked about with Tennessee and the other SEC schools would become in play.
I mean, the book still has Indiana at minus 350 to make the college football playoff. So they think that the Vegas still thinks that they can get in, even with a loss to a team that's now 12.5-point dogs, too. That number's gone from 10.5 to 12.5 over the last couple of days for Indiana. Notre Dame, people used to cry all the time. They don't play in a conference. They shouldn't be in. They have an advantage. They don't play a conference championship game. This is when there was 4 teams, Bill. Now that there's 12, I'm starting to see it even more. I'm a Notre Dame fan. I usually defend by saying Notre Dame usually schedules at least 3 or 4 of their games pretty good, just like everyone else. It's not their fault this year that Florida State and USC, I'll even throw Louisville in there, aren't very good this year. I don't think it's fair to Notre Dame to do that to them. They thought those were going to be marquee games for them.
Yeah, do you think they planned on Florida State being 1-8 or 1-9?
No.
I don't think so. And they schedule USC. They schedule across all the conferences. They've taken advantage of that ACC arrangement. And quite frankly, the last month or so, they've played well. They're really good on the defensive side of the ball. You can't throw on them. You have to earn every yard. And I kind of look at them as one of these top 10 defensive teams. If you look across most playoff projections, you're going to find 8 of the top 10 defenses in college football there from a scoring standpoint. So I think as we get into the college football playoff, some of these games might be fistfights, like 24-20, 24-17 type games. And in that setting, Notre Dame could win a game or two in the playoff. So I'm going to defend them here as long as they don't lose to Army, which is going to be an interesting game when you're going up nation's leading rush offense and a tough defense for the Black Knights. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. 4 Horsemen memories, look that up. But I like the Irish to win this week and finish 11-1 and possibly, depending on how it shakes out, get a home game in the first round.
Yeah, that game at Yankee Stadium, too, against Army coming up here on Saturday night. So that should be very interesting. I got about a minute left, Bill. BYU loses this week. Colorado's on a big roll right now. Colorado, BYU, or does Arizona State, who people are leaving out, they're right in the mix here with BYU this week.
I like the Sun Devils this weekend. I do. I think they win at home. BYU hasn't been there since 1997. Sam Leavitt's a hot quarterback, 3 touchdowns each of the last 3 weeks. They can run the football. Pretty complete domination at Kansas State over the weekend as well. So, man, if I would have told you last year, Arizona State, Colorado, a pair of 3-9 teams, are going to be in the Big 12 championship game, I mean, how hard would you have laughed me off this show? I think it's getting closer to becoming a reality.
20 seconds. Will Miami or SMU open the door for Clemson in the next 2 weeks?
I think they both win. Miami, SMU, that's my ACC championship game. They closed that door. If one were to open it, I think it would be Miami.